I'm very pleased to welcome you to Kiski's 132nd commencement. We're here to celebrate and congratulate all of our seniors, not just for completing our graduation requirements, but for the work they've put in and all that they've given to our school during their time here. Our Kiski families are to be congratulated too for their help and support. Seniors, please take a moment to thank the people watching with you today who made this experience possible for you. I'm thinking of our seniors with their families and friends gathered together to watch this program. I'd like to invite you to take a picture of your group and email it to headmaster@kiski.org. We'll post your photos on social media to demonstrate that even though we're separated by distance, we're all together in spirit. It's my pleasure to introduce this year's class speaker, Patrick Jacob. During his 4 years at Kiski, Patrick has accomplished great things. As our head prefect, he's demonstrated impressive leadership skills. He's an outstanding student, a talented athlete, and a dedicated friend. For all his unpretentious efforts, Patrick has gained the admiration and respect of our entire school community. We look forward to hearing about the many successes he'll undoubtedly have in college and beyond. Please join me in welcoming this year's class speaker, Patrick Jacob.
Hello everyone, graduates, teachers, family, parents, and friends. As I'm sure you know, this is a time of confusion, a time where the whole world has seemingly shut down. There are no sports to be watched, no hanging out with friends, and no fourth quarter at Kiski. For us seniors, that last one, man, that was a tough one to swallow. As a result of COVID-19, you get to watch me on video, rather than seeing me address the student body one last time in Rogers or on the stage at graduation. I just want to warn you that I'm still going to have some corny jokes, and I'm going to pause in my speech whenever I think I said something funny, because I'm sure you're going to be laughing. Just like everyone, quarantining has dragged on in my household. I can only play so many video games before my brain starts to become fried. Every once in a while, the occasional 2v2 basketball game will happen outside between my dad, my brothers, and me. While dominating my dad in the low post is fun, eventually I started to get tired of winning. But there was one thing that my family did every day, and I just couldn't win at it. Every night, immediately following dinner, we would play the card game, Oh Heck. If you play this card game, you might know it by a different name, but my family likes to keep it PG. The point of the card game is to guess how many tricks you can take. Each person is dealt the same amount of cards, and one suit is designated to be trump, meaning that it is more powerful than the other suit. Whoever came in first that night got 3 points, second 2, and third 1. So each night we play this game, and night after night, my youngest sister seemed to keep expanding her lead over all of us. For those of you that know me at all, you know that I'm pretty competitive and that I hate losing. So my sister constantly winning night after night just killed me. Eventually I started to come to terms with losing, and rather focused on enjoying that time with my family. Yes, I know it's a cliche, it's not about winning, blah blah blah. But what I'm trying to get at is that it's not always about winning. It's who you are playing the game with. It's not about the end result, but the journey. At Kiski, just like my family card game, it is so easy to get wrapped up in winning or the end result. It's easy to focus on getting the best grades, winning that game, bettering your friends in something, and eventually getting that diploma. It's not about winning, but about who you're playing with, right? Rather than focusing on graduating, we should be appreciating the time that we've had at Kiski. I'm guilty of this too. There are plenty of days where I would complain to Darrington about having a lot of homework and saying I can't wait to graduate. Or there were plenty of days where I said I couldn't wait for golf season to be over and that I didn't want to go to practice. Cynthia Ozick, an American writer, has a famous quote: "We often take for granted the very things that deserve our gratitude." I think that this could not describe Kiski any better. It seems like at Kiski, much of what is done here is taken for granted. Whether it is the countless hours the maintenance staff puts in to make sure our campus looks beautiful, or the long days the faculty go through after teaching classes, coaching a sport, and being on duty in the dorm at night, there is an abundance of effort that is put towards the betterment of the student body on this campus. But still, it is easy to get caught up in the little things. It's easy to get caught up on getting an hour for being 1 minute late to Spanish. It's easy to get caught up in every single teacher you have assigning a project at the end of the quarter. It's easy to get caught up in the little things that people don't like about Kiski. However, when a worldwide, once-in-a-lifetime event like this occurs, you see people's true feelings about everything, about their jobs, their family, their life, and school. An event like this just goes to show you how important it is to appreciate what you have before it's gone. None of us expected to have our senior year cut short, but here we are. Being grateful takes some reminiscing, so I'm going to reminisce on some of my favorite Kiski memories from each of my 4 years here. My freshman year, my favorite memory stems from a not-so-great one. Towards the end of the year, Christian Spahn, his older brother TJ, some others, and I were sitting in the day room when the famous TV was broken in McClintock. That's not my favorite memory, though. What happened after is, collectively, a bunch of the other freshmen walked around the dorm fundraising and asking for donations for a TV. And we came up with around $150 to go towards the cost of a new TV. That was great. But what made it even better was the chaos that came 10 minutes later when we had to return all the money back to everyone that gave us money. My favorite memory from sophomore year was when the football team went undefeated, beating Lindsley at home in the final game. The amount of people at that game was absurd. I think every member of the student body was there. The atmosphere could be described as electric, but I think even that doesn't do it justice. The thrill of rushing the field after we won is something that I will hold on to forever. My brother often quotes it as the best Kiski sporting event of his time. My favorite memory from junior year comes from a prefect meeting that was at Mr. B's house. It was at the Christmas party that Mr. B holds every year for all of the prefects. That year, not much focus was on Mr. B though. Sorry, Mr. B. 2 students were hearing back from 2 Ivy League schools, and both of them got in. The roars that happened when Tony Wang got into UPenn could be heard at Summer Camp Hill, and they were even louder when Bryant Garcia got into Harvard. That's probably the loudest the headmaster's house has ever been, unless Sam and Mara got into a huge fight one day or something. Lastly, we have senior year. The best memory from this year comes from our soccer team winning a state championship. While the athletic feat is amazing, what was more impressive was the support the soccer team got from the student body during this run. There were 60 plus students at the championship game in Philadelphia, and probably 120 plus students at the home quarterfinal game. I like to think of this as the greatest sporting event of my time at Kiski. What was amazing to me was seeing the whole student body come together to support the soccer team, even if we ended up breaking a railing in the process. If you look at all 4 of the memories I've described, they all have one thing in common. They are memories in which we came together as a school to support each other. Whether it was a college acceptance or the breaking of a TV, a simple event can bring everyone together. It wasn't about winning the game. It was about who we were playing with. I hope that when everyone else looks back on their time at Kiski, they can identify some events that made them proud to be a Kiski boy, just like these did for me. It's not the diploma that we're going to receive that makes an impact on who we are. It's the memories and bonds we have made while we are here. Just like in my card game, it's not as much about the end goal, but about the journey. It's not as important to win the family competition as it is to spend time with your family. It's not as important to receive a little white piece of paper with your name on it as it is to cherish the memories you have made throughout your time at Kiski. It was my honor to be the head prefect of this class. I love you guys, and I can't wait to see all of you guys soon. Remember, it's not a goodbye, it's a see you later. I hope to see everyone next year at our postponed graduation and the reunions to come. See you later.
As graduates of the Kiski class of 2020, you join a select few other classes that have extraordinary historical significance to the school. For example, the very first Kiski boys in 1888, the classes of headmasters Wilson, McCall, Marks, Dobb, Clark, Pigeon, and Bruningson, classes through the war years, and the centennial class of 1888. You are the Kiski class of 2020 that persevered through the worldwide pandemic. Although this will be a talking point for you for the remainder of your lives, I would suggest, like those before and those that will come after you, that your unique pandemic period of time will not define you and will be simply a profound talking point. All Kiski boys have in common, no matter their time in history, what was and still is expected of us at every level: civility and personal honesty foremost. As a member of the class of 2020, you have measured up to be Kiski boys. During your time at the school, you have learned to be self-consciously and intentionally better, to try harder, to face shortcomings, and to be yourselves. Congratulations, and on behalf of your Kiski Board of Trustees, we are proud to welcome you as fellow alumni of the Kiski School. It is my pleasure to introduce our parent speaker, Monica Tillman. Mrs. Tillman has been married to Pastor Tyrone Tillman for 34 years, and they are the proud parents to 3 sons and the grandparents to 1 grandson. So they too have experience in teaching boys. Mrs. Tillman earned a Master's of Social Work degree and a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Pittsburgh. She has been a school social worker for 34 years and is currently employed with the Pittsburgh Public Schools, where she provides counseling and support services for students and their families. She is here to share a Kiski mother's perspective. Please join me in welcoming Monica Tillman.
Good morning, Kiski staff, board of directors, parents, guardians, and graduates. Congratulations, everyone. We made it through. My name is Monica Tillman. My husband, Tyrone Tillman Sr., and I are the parents of Micah Tillman. We'd like to thank the Kiski staff for the opportunity to speak to the Kiski School graduating class of 2020 and their families. I'd like to begin with 2 quotes. The first quote is an old English saying, and the author is unknown. Life is hard, yard by yard. Life is a trial, mile by mile. Life is a cinch, inch by inch. The second quote is by Samuel Johnson. Great works are performed not by strength, but by perseverance. This class will truly go down in history as young men who triumphed in spite of adversity they faced. Did you know that every 100 years there's an epidemic? In 1720, there was a plague. In 1820, cholera. In 1921, the Spanish flu. Our graduates experienced the challenges of a global pandemic in 2020. This class had to abruptly move from a brick and mortar school to virtual learning. They continue to work hard to accomplish their goals. This group of graduates persevered. As my family and I look back on Micah's journey from a freshman to a graduating senior, we know that there were challenges and successes. Every experience has been the making of Micah into a confident, talented, and prepared young man. What was most important in the process were the people he met along the way. Relationships were paramount, and perseverance was essential. He developed over 4 years with the support and care of so many people. Kiski was a great fit for Micah because academic and sports opportunities were an integral part of the educational programming. We are thankful for the friends he refers to as his band of brothers, the family, the Kiski staff, and the FAME staff who stood with him all the way. Soren Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backwards, but we must live it forwards. Parents and guardians, I imagine that you, like me and my husband, look back over your son's life and realize time flies. You must ask yourself, who is this man in front of us? I know my husband and I, like you, have expectation and dreams for our son. I have to admit that my husband never wavered, but at times I had my doubts, especially during the freshman year. When Micah transitioned from public school to an independent private boarding school, the adjustment was challenging. The academic rigor was challenging, but encouragement and support, he became comfortable seeking assistance with his teachers. He learned that he could call them and schedule meetings during the day or after school hours. I would secretly call Mrs. Spahn and ask her to check on him. She knew just what to say to comfort me and to keep him on task. I can sum up our journey in 4 conversations. Freshman year, 2016-2017. One Sunday evening, while driving back to Kiski, Micah said, "You're sending me to college, and I'm only 14 years old." I pulled over, called my husband, who's always been our voice of reasoning. He replied, "Monica, keep driving. He'll be all right. We have to trust God. He's in the right place." Sophomore year, 2017-2018. One Saturday morning while driving for the weekend, Micah said, "Mom, your hormones and my hormones are clashing. I like Mrs. Mustard because she's teaching me to deal with you. The work is hard, but I'm used to Kiski now." Junior year, 2018-2019. Micah said, "Mom, I was selected as a prefect. I do not want to come home as much anymore because I want to be with my friends. There's more to do at Kiski. All you guys do is watch movies." We did more than watch movies, but that was his perception. Senior year, March 26, 2020. While he was driving me home, Micah said, "Mom, you can stop worrying about me. You and Dad raised me right. I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm glad I went to Kiski. Kiski was the place for me. I'm ready to go away to college. I'm prepared. I want the chance to live life and make my own choices." I was speechless, which is rare for me. I said a short prayer. "God, you be the greatest voice in his head." We learned so much over the 4 years. We vowed to make every moment a teachable moment. We grew from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. We went from "this is too difficult" to "this is difficult, but I can do it with help." And finally, "I'm ready and I'm prepared." The senior we have today is a young man who is comfortable with whom he has become. His high school experiences have pulled him in a direction of growth that prepared him for the next level. In the words of Dr. Rob Reimer, taking a forward look at life means learning the art of solving problems and making decisions sensibly and consistently. A person gets to be grown when they can take responsibility for their life. Our sons have arrived at the moment we've all waited for, high school graduation. Today, we say thank you to everyone who supported the Kiski School Class of 2020. Thank you, Kiski staff. You all provided an educational setting that valued academics, sports, community service, and structure, a venue for our sons to travel, grow, and discover their true selves. They reached a level of self-awareness that will impact them for a lifetime. Thank you, famed staff, for providing the resources and experiences that broaden our sons' horizons and push them to achieve academic excellence. Your programs help young men develop a sense of self in a world that will demand so much more from them. To all the Kiski families, stateside and abroad, you are now our extended family. Our hearts and lives are richer because we walk this journey together. traveling and dining together, supporting each other along the way, sharing highs and lows, ups and downs, victories, championships, transitions, and yes, one of the greatest challenges that this world has ever known, overcoming the pandemic. Our sons will walk onto college and university campuses all over the world. We can hold our heads high. They did it. Our sons are going to be all right. They are the Kiski School Class of 2020. In the words of Mr. Novum, now it starts all over again. I guess we're going to have to put on new lenses for the next level. To the Kiski School Class of 2020, you have a unique legacy. This year of unprecedented changes has caused all of us to see life through different lenses. Be open to the unprecedented, and you will change history. You have had a paradigm shift. You will never be the same. Your vision is clearer. Your faith is stronger. Your bonds with family and friends are closer. Value every day as a day of victory, filled with joy and hope. Thank you, Band of Brothers, for supporting each other, sharing common experiences, and making friendships and bonds that will last forever. Kiski Class of 20, be you. The world needs you to be uniquely you. You all are special in your own way. This world needs you to be you, and we do too. Congratulations. Go, Cougars, go. Thank you.
Class of 2020, on behalf of the Headmaster, the Board of Trustees, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it is now our honor to present you with these certificates of graduation signifying your successful completion of course of study requirements of the Kiski Spring School. Diplomas will be awarded randomly and not in alphabetical order. Taeyang Zhu. William Emil Yus Hansen. Stephen Thomas Raymore Watson. Yu Yang Ding. Ben Noenberg. Zihao Tang. Tim Mike Bergartz. Christopher James Rubino. Anthony Lorenzo Fiallo. Ian Michael Russ. Niall Daniel Traviato. Cameron Colin Villarol. Kobe Micah Schwartz. Nicolas Ramirez Aste. Ozan I. Matthew Gregory Sawinski. Charles Marcel Bitzer. Mikhail Elijah Warfield Payne. Riao Tien Dong. Robert Wesley Wheat. Addison Mack Shapiro. Grant Alexander Lumley. Melvin Bermudez Carbone. Carl Darius Capadia. Caleb James Commandon. Dylan Michael Berzanski. Princeton Romero Douglas. Bryce Thomas Horner. Nicholas Andrew Darrington. Xavier Martinez Mora. Ryan Thomas Wallace. Luis Eduardo Montas Morillo. Yuji Ji. Patrick Scott Jacob. Joseph Patrick Swazi III. Finnegan Wild Bishop. Matej Bensick. Stanford Xavier Lyons. Archie James Kimbrough IV. Reese Michael Bull. Jacob Thomas Renaud. Filippo Ercole. Riju Q. Dylan Scott Pettis. Jameer Dominique Adderley. Gao Yongji Pan. Christian Michael Spahn. Norian Nasir Williams. Hao Tian Wu. Ge Yaoyang Zhang. Diego Lomba Bentances. Jose Alexandro Cotto Varela. Jason David Villarol. Jian Li. Alexander Jason Stewart. Chumin Si. Omari Karan Johnson. Darcy Francis Marshall. Simone Fernandez Quirino. Micah Emmanuel Tillman. Kyle Vincent Nicholas Riki. Reed William Moore. Liam James Howe. Andrew Richard Sawinski. Luca Luigi Venditti. Christian Yvetot Antoine Conde. Pedro Elias Montino. Shiji Rao. Ayuwat Tamtai. Maximilian Robert Mears. Mark Lee Shoebridge. And Joshua Dusan Rosa. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2020.
It's my pleasure to introduce this year's valedictorian, Joseph Swazi. During his time at Kiski, JP has undertaken challenging academic pursuits with passion and determination. He has impressed our entire school community with his intellect and tremendous work ethic. For his efforts, he's been recognized with many awards, including membership in the Cum Laude Society. This fall, JP will be attending the University of Cincinnati. We'll miss him here at Kiski, but we know that he will accomplish great things in the future. It's my pleasure to introduce the valedictorian of the class of 2020, Joseph Swazi.
I would like to start off by thanking everybody that has helped me to get to where I am today. I want to thank all of my teachers for helping me to grow as both an academic and, more importantly, as a person. Specifically, I'd like to give a special shout out to Mr. Orsatti for having me in class for the last 3 years, being on his golf team for the last 4 years, taking me to church every week, and just being a great mentor during my time here at Kiski. It's hard to believe that he's been at the school since it opened in 1888. Lastly, I would like to offer my biggest thanks to my parents. Mom and Dad, you are the reason I stand here today. Well, sit here today. Were it not for your constant love and support, I wouldn't have even gone to Kiski. You were willing to sacrifice 4 years you would have had with me so that I could go off and better myself. I have only realized recently how hard of a decision that must have been, and I can never thank you enough for what you have done. Well, boys, we did it. We're here today, well, not actually, but you know what I mean, to celebrate our past 4 years of hard work and dedication. All the homework, papers, exams, even the long van rides have led us to this point. We should all be extremely proud of our accomplishments and excited about what comes next. Well, we should, but we aren't. It's become hard to look forward to what's ahead since we really don't know what's coming next. I, like all of you, have spent the last 2 months almost exclusively in my house, afraid to even interact face-to-face with my neighbors. Sure, we've had our online classes every day, the discussions, the in-chat roast battles, the email races, Mr. B's class. That's not the same, is it? This last quarter was supposed to be our best. Right now, we should be hanging out, playing a game of pickup, or screaming at each other in Call of Duty. These last 2 months should have been our time. But our last months together have been stripped from us. I have to admit, when I found out that day that we wouldn't be coming back, I cried. I did, and I know many of you did too. But no matter how much we wish things were different, the outcome isn't going to change. In a world where everything seems out of our control, we have to latch on to what we can control, our outlook. Boys, we are a lot better off than most seniors. When I was starting to write this speech, I came across many examples online, and they all had a common theme: regret. They regretted being so focused on grades that they missed out on some of the best moments of high school. I can honestly say that I haven't. Sure, I've had to study hard, spend hours on essays and presentations, and study for gosh darn Spanish opportunities. But those things, they aren't as important as the experiences I've had with you guys. Whether you've been here for 1 year or 4, you've all had these experiences. Frisbee on the turf, shell tournaments in Swank, movie marathons in day rooms. One of my favorite Kiski memories is going to Seven Springs one day with Mr. Richard Q. Now, this was Richard's first time ever skiing, and for some reason, after going down the bunny hill a couple of times, Richard decides to go up to the top of the mountain. We get off the lift and everyone heads down the mountain, or so we thought. We look around wondering where Richard is, only to look up towards the top to see Richard walking down the mountain, skis and poles in hand. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard. Now, I could go on telling stories, but this recording would end up lasting all day and nobody wants that. My point is, these past 4 years have been some of the best of my life. Not because of classes, not because of teachers, sorry guys, but because of you. I am closer to you guys than any of my friends back home. Now, we all have a choice to make. We can sit back and reminisce about all these happy memories we've made, or, once all this coronavirus craziness is over, we can bounce back even stronger than before. My fellow classmates, I ask you not to let our last meeting be that day before spring break. Don't let this Kiski brotherhood sink to the back of our minds until it is just a memory. Let's make an effort to see each other again. Let's all meet up for a round of golf, a ski trip, even a long weekend with the boys. We should not, no, cannot allow this pandemic to leave a stain on this great time of our lives. At next year's real graduation, which we should all make an effort to go to, by the way, we can all look back on this moment and laugh and see how it brought us all closer together. Thank you, boys, for everything.
My parents met and fell in love during World War II when they were sophomores in high school. The stories I heard growing up about how they didn't have a graduation ceremony were somewhat detached from reality for me until this spring when COVID-19 turned traditional graduation programs into public health hazards. The war wasn't contagious, and yet somehow felt disrespectful to engage in any kind of celebration when so many of their fathers and brothers and friends were risking their lives to defend our country. My mom's in her 90s now, but a decade ago when she was in better health, she's still getting together twice a month with her high school girlfriends, as she calls them. The class that she and my father were part of were especially close, and the reunions always set records for attendance. It occurs to me now that while they didn't get to experience a graduation ceremony together, they spent the rest of their lives making up for it. And I hope the same will be true for Kiski's class of 2020. I think you should know that we considered, then rejected, the idea of following a graduation model from a college in Japan where students were replaced with robots with iPad faces for the ceremony. The president of the university even posed for photos with the robot students holding their diplomas. We quickly realized that doing a robot graduation had several drawbacks. Most notably, it would have required all of you to shave. If there's one thing we've learned over the past few months, it's that in a crisis we need to be flexible and adaptable. You've done that this spring, and impressively so. Under tough circumstances, you transitioned to learning online, and we all made the best of an imperfect hand that was dealt to us. Naturally, we're all asking questions about what the world will look like in the near future and beyond. What will classrooms look like when schools reopen? What will your college dining hall look like next year? How will you get together with friends with social distancing in place? I thought about what grade reading might look like next year and how we'll continue our time-honored tradition of a handshake after each student receives his grades, or if his grades weren't so good. Right now, it feels like so many things about the future are uncertain, and that's scary. But keeping an optimistic outlook, knowing that everything will return to some version of normal at some point, will get us through the challenges we'll face in the meantime. President Kennedy once said in a speech that the Chinese use two brushstrokes to write the word crisis. One stands for danger and the other for opportunity. In a crisis, be aware of the danger, but recognize the opportunity. During the pandemic, we've identified opportunities and seen some positive outcomes, like all the people who've been supporting each other and reaching out to others in need. I know that many of you have participated in relief initiatives to help those who are struggling in your cities and towns. It's a new kind of community service, but I want you to know that your involvement is having an important impact. When the Great Plague of London hit in 1665, Isaac Newton was a college student. Back then, people practiced some of the same things we're doing now to avoid getting sick. Schools were closed, and Newton retreated to his family's country estate where he worked on math problems in isolation. It was during that time that he developed the foundation for what would become calculus. A friend sent me this meme commemorating Newton's accomplishments during the plague. For the class of 2020, now and in the future, what opportunities are on the horizon, and how can you measure your capacity to make a difference in the world? In part, that has to do with the way you think about and define success. Many people view success through a narrow lens, pointing to notable businessmen and famous athletes and deeming them to be successful based on the size of their bank accounts. Some argue that your likelihood of becoming rich and famous is inextricably tied to social factors that are out of your control. Maybe that's true. But I'd argue that your ability to have a positive impact on the world is mostly in your own hands. A world-changing definition of success is certainly a less materialistic metric, but it's also one that is more difficult to measure. However, I recently tried to do just that, quantify this class's capacity for success using the BWCPI, which stands for the Bruningson World Changing Potential Index, which I'm sure you've heard of. I sent a survey to the senior class consisting of a single question: what matters most in life? The results were submitted anonymously. Here's a word cloud of your responses. The top two answers to the question, what matters most, were family and friends at 34% and education at 22%. Future financial success, 14%. I'll allow a moment for the parents to catch their breath as you conjure a picture of your potentially world-changing but yet to be employed son moving back into the basement of your home after college, spending his days eating Cheetos and playing Xbox. Sorry to load you up with that image. I promise it won't happen. If it does, I'll personally help you secure a refund from your son's college. For the record, you won't be getting any Kiski tuition back no matter what happens. Don't misunderstand my message. Financial success and changing the world aren't mutually exclusive goals. There's nothing wrong with wanting a financially secure, comfortable life. It just shouldn't be your principal motivator. Incidentally, the results of my informal, non-scientific poll are completely consistent with a larger body of evidence-based research. There's reason to be optimistic as the torch is passed to your generation, Generation Z. My generation, Generation X, is famously known for sifting every decision through a narcissistic sieve. What's the ROI? What's the return on my investment? What's in it for me? It's an unhealthy standard against which to measure importance and worth. It's dangerous because it discounts the value of altruism and selflessness. Your generation, thankfully, has a different outlook. There's been a lot written about Generation Z, which gives a broader picture of what matters most to you. You worry about your carbon footprint, global warming. You seek quality friendships. You're more committed to making meaningful contributions at work. You're volunteering in greater numbers for causes that matter. You see the world with an open mind, accepting diversity in race, gender, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. Your generation is gifted with a passion for accomplishment and intersocial conscience. Generation Z is also the most racially diverse generation in American history. Among the 17 million members of Generation Z, almost half are people of color. Historian and author John Barrymore tells a story about Nobel laureate Saul Bellow, with whom he'd worked at Princeton in the 1950s. One evening, while the two were walking along the shores of Carnegie Lake, Bellow came across a log, which he picked up and flamboyantly tossed into the water, commanding it to go be a hazard. Fundamentally, that's my charge to the class of 2020. Now, we've all witnessed your capacity, both individually and collectively, for hazardous behavior. The redecorating of the freshman dorm before you left for spring break being one notable example of your special talents in this area. Of course, that isn't the type of hazardous behavior Saul Bellow was talking about. He was referring to what's sometimes called disruptive innovation. That's when a creative new idea comes along that shakes things up and offers a different kind of value to the world. The good kind of being a hazard has purpose and intention. In the words of Emerson, don't go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path, and leave a trail. We live in a world that's much more complex and more dangerous than the world I knew or the one that your parents knew when we were your age. Even beyond COVID-19, the challenges facing your generation are big and urgent. Securing peace in a time of global conflict, bringing stability to a troubled world economy, finding cures for cancer, and developing projects that will save the planet. You should probably get to work on all that. Not right now, but sometime soon. More than any time in recent history, we need a heroic generation to lead us. The real measure of a generation's strength is how they come together to master the challenges of their time. And it's true. Every time we think we've reached our capacity to solve a problem, we look to one another and we're reminded that our capacity may well be limitless. It's the promise of human ingenuity, and it's the promise of your generation. Do what is hard, achieve what is great, reach for the stars and make us proud. We look forward to welcoming you back to Kiski next May, if not sooner, and we'll celebrate your graduation with you in person. In the meantime, good luck in college, and God bless all of you. Thank you.